Welcome. I'm Giovanni Singleton, Lunch Poems Coordinator, and thank you all for being here on this rainy afternoon. First, I'd like to invite you to sign up on our email list, which is over by the librarian's desk. And also, we have just a very few posters remaining outlining our entire year's events, so please do pick one up. Also on our website, lunchpoems.berkeley.edu, you can view this reading and all of our past readings. On YouTube, we have our very own channel, so do log on. And please do come back next month, May 4th. We will have our annual student reading, which features many prize-winning poets, as well as our Lunch Poems volunteers and students who have been nominated by creative writing faculty here at Berkeley. So please do come back and join us. So today, of course, it is National Poetry Month. So please welcome our incoming Lunch Poems director and English professor, Jeffrey G. O'Brien, who will introduce this afternoon's esteemed guest poet. Thank you.
It's a bad state of affairs when a poet has forgotten that it's National Poetry Month. But welcome to this month, as well as today's inhabitation of it. We're really honored to have Devora Major here, who deals in subjects as vast as the becoming of the cosmos, but hails from next door. And in addition to teaching at CCA, Major has also been the San Francisco Poet Laureate, I believe 02 to 06? Okay, well, you left us in good shape. And Major is not only a poet, YA literature, novels, essays, but today we're here to celebrate what she does with sound as well as sense. I want to focus on her most recent collection of poetry, and Then We Became, out last year, which is still, I hope, becoming. I think we can hear just about all of Major's intelligence and the concerns of that intelligence in that title, actually, right? It's about process, about becoming, something that is both cosmological and social, but it's in the past tense. So it's about the history of various becomings as opposed to simply some permanent present of change. But it's not only the history of becoming, it starts in medias res, and then we became. And it's not only in medias res, but it doesn't seem to have any kind of direct object for that becoming. It's becoming in the intransitive sense, leaving open what one turns into, what the world turns into, so that it can be multiple. And that multiplicity of forms of becoming really is Major's subject. She looks unflinchingly at the social and physical world for all the forms of becoming, both bad and good, to which we're subject and in which we're enmeshed. So there's obviously what happens at the subatomic level, and then there's also what happens in the violent, strife-ridden history of human relation. There's one moment in the book where she talks about the Canary Island Whistlers, a group of people who've managed over time to register Spanish simply via whistling and use it to communicate across impassable distances. But she's also willing to fill in that history a little further and indicate that it also is something that people without tongues could do, people who had their tongues removed by a colonial force. So that moment of a whistle passing across a physical space to preserve and alter European language, Spanish, is a moment of successful navigation of space, a moment of linguistic innovation, and a moment that's registering deep racialized colonial violence. And to see all those things, to hear all those things happening at the same time is exactly the kind of deep, wide whistling register in which Major works. So hopefully we'll hear a lot from that book today, as well as possibly some new forms of becoming. We're really happy to have you here. Devora Major.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming out in the rain. I thought, in that it's National Poetry Month, I'd start with something from Where River Meets Ocean, which was the book I did as Poet Laureate, just on how I feel about poetry and what poetry is to me, because I really like it for a myriad of reasons in terms of what it does for the world, what it does for me personally. Poetry makes me smile. Even when it makes me cry, even when its bite sends chills up my spine, even when it howls its hot ice fury, it speaks truth. It warms me up inside, and a part of me smiles. I love poetry. Poetry with its infinite rhythms and shadings wears robes in so many colors and fabrics that you can travel the world in its grasp, ride through its bazaar of taste and tongues as it speaks its languages of love, of struggle, of determination, of faith, of our humanity and our universes. I love poetry because it's a warrior for truth and passion that takes no prisoners, only converts. For me, the best of poetry is like jazz in its ability to have people who don't always speak the same language swinging in the same beat. And if you want to swing the world in poetry, San Francisco, in the Bay Area, is one of the places to be, because you can be at home and traverse the world at the same time. And given that, I'm just going to start actually with the first book in the collection, which is Cosmology Meditation #1. This particular poem, I actually was listening to something on the radio, and this guy, a cosmologist, was lecturing on string theory. I probably didn't get it right. But I was fascinated with the idea. I actually went out and bought a book and read about it. And this was my summation of what I understood about it, thinking about the universe and how we got here and where we are. We are the memory of that place without measure, that filled all space that never was and ever will be. That place existing as the perfect note yet making no sound, holding all colors inside a light that was nothing but darkness. We are the memory of a breath that could not be but was, a breath that swelled to bubble and then burst and then collapsed. We are the memory gestated in days that lasted eons as the universe womb birthed heat, light, rock, mineral, song, us. We are the impossible made flesh, creating infinite possibilities of hope or endless chasms of despair inside the prayers which we have become. That is in and then we became, I actually made 4 sections, and the first one was spirit, and that's from the one of spirit. And I'm going to do another one from that, which is called Yes. I teach, or did, I still do somewhat in the museum, but a lot of young people, and particularly when I used to go into the schools and go into high school students, one of the refrains I always got was, well, I didn't ask to be born. And actually, there's a number of faith systems that say, yes, you did. And to really frustrate teenagers, they go further and say, you also chose your parents. The idea that there are lessons that you need at that spiritual to learn, and so that your spirit chooses to go where the lessons you need are. Okay, so that's the idea. So anyway, one day this student said that, and I just was so through with it. I was like, well, I did. So that's what this poem is. I did ask to be born. When I was in that universal space between where I had been and here, when I was riding on X star in Y galaxy on the plateau where birth meets passing on, I know I was one who pulsed, shone, sang, cajoled, yelled, cried, and pled yes. Yes, I want a tongue. Yes, I want to breathe. Yes, I want to dance. I want to be born. Of course, I didn't know what I was asking for. Had no idea of hunger or pain. Could not conceive of the word for despair. or the thought of utter aloneness, had yet to understand how suffer and celebration could sleep so close together. No, I didn't know. But I begged and begged until I got what I asked for. Every tongue tip, mouthful, feather touch, soft belly, pitted crag, breezy, gravelly moment out of life. I wanted it then. I want it now. So, and I was actually thinking about that when I was thinking about this reading. Why did I go to "and then we became other selves"? But I guess I'm really interested in connectiveness and how we connect to others. And, my brother is myself and all those kind of things. I really believe we are. So I was trying to look, it's so easy to judge other, and it's different to try to be other or see other. And actually, this is a poem. This is a personal poem. It's called Any Name Will Do. I was at a Cave Canem poetry retreat, and I had a workshop with Sonia Sanchez, a noted African-American poet, and this retreat was held at a monastery in New York at the time. And so each of us had a room, and over our room door there was the name of a saint. So Sonia said, there are no accidents. You're in this saint's room for a reason. So you need to go to the library, the monastery had a library, and you need to look up your saint, find out about your saint, and write a poem about your saint. So I said, oh, I'm in St. Anne's room. And I went up and I found Butler's Life of Saints, and not to bore you, but I'm going to read you the entire thing of what I've learned about my saint that I got to base a poem on. Of the Mother of Our Lady, nothing is certainly known. These people in the workshop, they were coming back with this, St. Christopher, just really great stuff. I was like, oh, okay. There we go. So this is what I came up with. And this is my mother's grandmother, who I never met and don't know. I saw her once. Physically, I saw her way down the road. But anyway, she came through Ellis Island. And evidently her name was Hannah, although maybe it was Anna. And they didn't know, so my mother named me Anne as a middle name that I never used for many reasons. But one of them being, at the end, they said, no, her name was really Hannah. But because the name Anne was what I was told her name was, it went with the same. When my mother spoke of Anne's kitchens, or perhaps it was Hannah, no one seems completely sure, she baked memories of cinnamon and crowns of powdered sugar. Her grandmother became Saint Anne, like the name of the door of the room where I stayed, a room valued for its wide windows where I could spend early mornings lolling in the firm fingers of the sun. I almost never think of the one known only by my mother's folded memories, woven like fine white lace, patterned and full of holes. She came to America as a teenager, left hillsides and country paths, spoke to her husband in a language that was not her own, turned the dinner plate face down to eat some butter on her corn, made new traditions in her transplanted home. Her husband fought to see us once, filled my face with silvery wet mustache kisses, squeezed me so tight I could not breathe except through his love. An offering of Anne's cookies, brimming with buttered, candied cherries, finely sifted flour, sparkling sugar, was layered in 2 tins, passed from him to my mother, to us. But Anna, or was it Hannah, never could admit us into her world. Schwarze, her neighbors would see us, dark like the riches of earth, or the night sky that held her dreams, or the dirt you washed from your feet before you climbed into a tight-sheeted bed. We were not to come into her world, and she would not enter into ours. She is mine as I am hers, but we never knew each other. My name is black. Hers, fear and regret. So, thank you. And this, I actually had marked it, the Canary Island Whistlers. My dad, Reginald Major, brilliant man, author. His books are probably somewhere in one of these libraries. But anyway, he would tell me stories, just stories. So he told me this story. This is a true story. These African sages had their tongues cut out and learned to speak Spanish, to whistle Spanish. So it's a poem, but it's a poem based on actual history, and they were called the Canary Island Whistlers. Needing to show what would happen to enslaved ones who used language as weapon, as poultice, as plow, but afraid to kill those whose mouths held spells and danger, Spanish soldiers cut out their tongues and put those men adrift in a worn boat, confident that the Atlantic would open her gaping mouth and swallow those ominous souls. But decades after the leaky boat landed on Canary Island shores, if you walked across a mountain ridge of that rocky, tree-filled island, you could hear those tongueless men whirling their sadness and joy in Spanish, shaping the air into foreign consonants and vowels, modulating alien tongues into verbs and nouns, becoming a new species of blackbird who would not be silenced and could not be killed. I just could not get over the idea that it was like, they were going to kill them, but at least they knew they would silence them, and they failed. As I believe ultimately evil will. This next one is City Scat. I actually wrote it for Oakland Dance Company, Denanchen's Dance. But looking at us, we who came to the city, my people are from the Bahamas, but from a little island named Eleuthera that when I was last there, which was about 12 years ago, there was one traffic light on the island. It was very country. It was on what we call the white side of the island, because that's where the Club Med was. And but the island is not that big. Drive the whole island in an hour. But most people come from one way or the other, the country or a village. It's just how immediately we did it. But then when you come to the city, it's the thing. I mean, I was born in the city. I'm a city girl. But most of us did not at some point. You know, it's maybe 1-2 generations back. For me, it's 2 generations back. City Scat. We come to this city of concrete, brick, steel, and toil, country people knowing the earth, seafaring people reading the tides, gambling people holding jokers and spades. We come to this city, hard, laughing, weep, sob, wailing, praying, celebrating people, bending and sweating. We come to this hiss, crack, snap, snap, swiren, whirl, holler, electric, zip, and burn city, round and bustling corners, banging our heads against destiny and crumbling brick walls of confusion. We come to this city that can cage us, enrage us, denial us, revile us, turn us from friends and family into prey and predator. We live in this city, this hip, how, she-bop, da we-bop, da he-bop, bang, clang, swinging city. We come to this city and we name it ours. So that was from the Other Selves. And then we become other selves. And then I did a section, and then we become fragile. And I decided to read this particular poem because I haven't yet got a good ending to my serial poem. But I wanted to at least acknowledge those. And this was actually from a news article that was not quite run. One of a good friend of mine, one of my before children friend, and I'm a grandmother now, so those of you who know that there are not many people who know you before you have children. You know, you get different friends. Anyway, her husband's a photographer and works at the New York Times as their photography director, so I was visiting them, mostly her, and went to some museum and then met him down there at the New York Times. And he said, oh, I want to show you this. And it was a layout that they were going to do on Sunday of civilians hurt in war. And the pictures were just, I was just standing there taken aback. And then when the Sunday paper came, I came to read the article, and they had cut all but one of the pictures. So the middle of this poem comes from the pictures that they didn't run, because I guess it would be too much for Americans to see what our tax dollars are doing. Losing limbs. Such simple things, these hands, that are cup and sieve, scissor and cloth, mallet and fan, open lotus blossoms and dark-lined clamshells. They have torn and beat, cleaned and caressed, shuddered and bled. Charted with love, the map of my hands is my journey. Such simple things, these feet, the scars of my ancestors cut into their souls, carrying more than blood, bones, and sinew. As they climbed and wept, danced and stumbled, held kisses and rubbed comfort, bristled and stung. Drum and hammer, ladder and cushion, these feet have loved sand and water, oil and touch. Lucky to have lived, he lies still, nothing but memory beneath his trunk. She hides her missing leg beneath bulbous skirts. There was no granddaughter's tiny foot or curled finger to kiss before they laid her under. Such simple things, these hands, these feet, these limbs, these lives, these broken leaves. I'll do this one for one of the war people here, for Brenda Lisa. I think of Brenda Lisa. I wonder what's happened to her. She's in her 20s now. Brenda Lisa was in, they have in Connecticut, they have some, we're so barbaric, youth jails. But this particular one was the way you should take care of kids who have problems, and it was a girls', and it was cabins out in the woods. And the girls that were there were teenagers. Most of them, they were there for truancy. They were there because they ran away from homes where they were either beaten or sexually abused. And they were there for prostitution because they ran away from the homes where they were beaten or sexually abused and had to eat. Or they were there for selling drugs because they ran away from the homes. It was just a horrible stories. So I was at this retreat. I was given these weeks at this place, and they said, we just want you to do one thing for us. One whatever we ask you to. I said, fine. So it was to be a poetry judge for these teenagers. So Brenda Lisa got up at the podium, and she had an old dial phone, you know, with the little wiggly thing, and she did a poem to her mother. And she couldn't get through it without crying. And it was heartbreaking for me as a mother. So for Brenda, I said, okay, your mom won't talk to you. Maybe she'll listen to another mother. So this is for Brenda Lisa. It's called Mother to Mother. Pick up the phone. Your daughter wants you to wrap love around her name when you hear her voice. She cries prayers into the receiver, pleads for you to hear how he touched her, how he tore her, how he bruised her. And she knows he is your husband. Your daughter chants heartache into the disconnected line, begging that you understand how he betrayed her, how he blamed her, how he broke her. And she knows he is her father. Your daughter wants you to know she does not blame you. She knows how one can love a damaged soul. She loves him. She loves you. She is trying to learn to love herself. You know, it's very, and I gave her the poem. I wrote the poem. It's not, the version she has isn't quite like this. I wrote the poem the next day. I had it delivered to her. and asked for permission to publish it from her. And she's like, nobody ever wrote me a poem. Nobody ever wrote me a poem. I'm like, this is kind of a heartbreaking poem, but okay, sweetie. For my father, the writer. My father had a stroke. He came out of the stroke. He finally had most of his memory back, and he could walk as well as he could walk, and he could talk and reason. My father was a writer. He could not read or write. Stroke journey, 1. Thick, cold, and blinding, white, strangely dry. There is no self. Arms, legs, breath, thought disappear. Endless flat expanses. No trees, no rivers or seas. No points from which to navigate. No color but white. Whose lips that slur and groan. Whose eyes that will not stay open. Whose legs that cannot walk. Whose mind that cannot remember. Where is he? 2. Read the fear, read the tears, read the frustration, read the fury, read the resolve. A face comes into view. There is love, red and pulsing. 3. Once there were words, codes broken at a glance. Now hieroglyphics, turn to ideogram, turn to Cyrillic, transform to child scribbles, haunting in their mystery. Where does a writer go when there are no words that can be read, only symbols written in an alien tongue? My life, he cries. This is my life. Inside these words I cannot read. Around these letters I do not know. My life. 4. He does not reach for the past. It is not there. Yeah. Long journey. I would go to the ER with my parents, and I would write poems there. What do you do when you're in the ER for 5 and 6 hours? I mean, what are you going to do? So, I wrote poems. So this is one for my mom, because I tend to do my dad more than my mom, and I want to honor them both. Squamous cell. She had recurring skin cancer everywhere. It is patient and ravenous in its appetite for my mother. It has nibbled on her cheek, nipped her back, bitten deeply into one calf, gnawed repeatedly on the back of her hands, growing hard and firm inside the spider-veined fabric of her translucent skins. Again and again she endures being cut, notched and wedged, burnt, gouged and sliced. But like the tide each evening, it comes back, spreads its tongue around her flesh, and finds new places to sup. Yeah, I really got much respect and fear. So that's from And Then We Become Fragile. And this is for my daughter. Just because one of my daughters, this I actually wrote when my daughter was about the same age as her former classmate, knew her in around 4th grade. And this is, it was in Ben Lomond, it's actually true, which is there's a Quakers retreat in Ben Lomond that you can go, and it's a beautiful little cabin in Beat. So I was there with my children and my children's father. Ben Lomond. Crickets scratch their legs together, tree frogs call in the moon, and my daughter lies covered in sweat. Golden and polished, she blends in with the oiled, knotty pine walls. I cannot see her breath soft between slender arms, thrown wide across the bed. Mouth cracked and silent, she heals herself. What she does yet today. Okay, babe, how am I doing on time? How am I doing on time? Okay. So I'll do the other. This great-grandmother is my Yoruba grandmother. My Yoruba grandmother was, it's lovely to be from the islands. You know who your ancestors are very, very often. Very, very often. Anyway, she was stolen from Africa and taken to the Bahamas and became free in her lifetime. And she was an Obeah woman. Obeah is what another name for this Ifa, voodoo, Makumbi, whatever. Anyway, she brought Obeah to the islands. So I wanted to write and my great Aunt Margaret knew her, but unfortunately when I knew Aunt Margaret, I didn't get to know her well enough to get her, I only got one story, to get the stories, and then she passed, because Aunt Margaret was like, no, I need to know you to know if I can trust you with the stories better. So this is from what I know. And I really did go to England and do everything in here. I don't know if you would recognize me as yours if we met in my now, but I am glad to be this me, born in American, Carib, Irish, Slavic, Jew-born African woman that I be. That is not to say that I am glad you were stolen or celebrate the way you were torn from your bloodline, stripped from your legacy, betrayed. I do not revel in the loneliness that kept your lips tight, your back hard, your heart scarred. But the me that is, that weaves these strands, that finds me free and headstrong, the loudmouth me, wide-hipped, frizzy-haired, soft-belly me that has found a home inside this peanut skin, would not be here without your crossing. They tell me you were mean, sultry, dark skin, fine-boned hands that stirred the pot hung between 3 legs of the African stove you made the Irishmen build so that you could cook outside under stars spread across the sky in foreign constellations. They say you would stand near the Caribbean beach and stare at the sea, hold water under your tongue, your back to the ocean that could have led you home. I'm told you were cruel, silent, and strong, an Obeah woman before it wore that name, bearing Ifa beneath the arching avocado tree. One year, landing in England, I took the train to Liverpool, walked crowded streets to the harbor's mouth, where tales are told of the ships they built, the cargo they carried. Deep underground, I explored the newly crafted model of a slave ship hold that was cool and dry and did not smell. Did you see me lean against a post, my legs suddenly soft, my belly cramping, a howl caught in the back of my throat? As I saw the planks that served as beds, as I heard the cries and moans and waves crashing against walls, my eyes throbbing red as shadows writhed in chains, did you hear me call out the name I did not know? Hear me whisper my thanks to you for surviving, for keeping on, for bearing the child who would bear the child who would bear the child who would father the child who would father me. Yoruba runs again strong in our line. My grandson carries it pure from his father through my daughter, circling back to you. We are bringing you home, great-grandmother twice removed. We are bowing our heads. We are holding you close. We are learning your name. So, yeah, that's all I know. Yeah, this Irish man came and said he liked him, some of my great-grandmother. And she said, you will marry me. That's how we do it back home. And he did. And then he bought her an English stove, because he was evidently quite in love with her. And she's like, no. And made her build that, which I just love that she just is like, no, I was African when I was born, I will be African when I die. This is a Sistina, it's a love chant for my husband. I decided I wanted to write a Sistina because I like various forms of I like poetry forms, but I like challenging myself in ways that then I'm sorry. I keep saying I'm going to do another successful one, but I didn't, but I did this one. And Sistina, for those of you that aren't into the poets, it's their 6 N-words, and you have to keep repeating them in a pre-described order in each of the stanzas, of the 6 stanzas in a different order. So you'll keep hearing the same N-words. You ask how to be sure if the poem that does not wear your name was written for you, who is so much more than the name pronounced as Greg. But things are seen and known at the center if their truth is unsaid. You wrap around me, pull me close, seek me out each daybreak. We listen together to the warble and shock of morning birds. We call each other love names, ears open to their whisper. Love does not always crow. Sometimes it has to whisper, short of breath and eager with the rush of words beside your names. I do not know the nomenclature of the dark dawn singing birds. And as you have pointed out, my poems are not inscribed with the crown of Greg. But I am beginning to recognize the curious bird warbles of daybreak, patterned like our own chirping mornings with nothing left unsaid. We have both said and done ugly things that cannot be unsaid, raged and forgotten to listen to the darkening day's whisper. Separated by an ocean of bed, we have met daybreak, me mutely, you ever watchful, vigilant as the meaning of Greg. And one would have thought it was a witch's cackle instead of the song of birds that awoke us, if we had slept at all, with their raucous calls that never whisper. I once could name more than hawk and sparrow, robin, owl, knew of birds that flew these skies, remembered then so many names, now mostly left unsaid. So even if unwritten, these love poems hold no other name than Greg, which you should know as you have known my breath in your ear as a whisper. Anyway, it still is said, true, all said and done. What really is a name except a name? Who we are is always what we find when the sun makes the day break. Even when the sky is thick with lead showing the grayest of daybreaks, even when the chill that nibbles our heart is stiff in winter air, there are birds. And neither you or I or the woman next door knows all of their names. And does it matter that we speak their song but leave their title unsaid? Or is what matters you and I and our trembling whispers? Is what matters the truth of my love and the mere reflection that is Greg? Have you heard the young boys sing the chants that are Gregorian? Songs of faith, the surety of moon at night and sun at daybreak. Sometimes inside the harshest storm, you can almost hear their whisper. Exotic and free, like the most unusually colored tropical birds. And you know how I leave the names of deities and saviors unsaid, because it's only the essentials of love that need be named. The night birds sing as we stroke each other beyond passion's whisper, creating a world where nothing is unsaid or unfelt from moonset to daybreak. And every poem of love I coil, written or not, is replete with the name of Greg. So, thank you. Before I do the last poem, okay, I'm going to do two poems, one very short and one a bit longer, which is for you. It's called A Love Offering. When my husband and I had our wedding celebration, we danced to a romantic song, but we came into Imagine by John Lennon, because there's something to be said for that. So I am about people imagining and spreading love and peace. I don't think that's enough, so don't just go out there and love your brother and think that's it, okay? But I do think it's somewhere that we have to be and start. These times are more than dangerous. What is there but blood, blood and death, hunger, hunger and fear, starvation of body and spirit, a cruelty cut deep into the maelstrom of our lives. The hour is late and we must resist, build barricades and armories, rise up, and yet all I can offer, all I can add to the stockpile is a homemade pocket-sized acorn tool of a solution, a portion of my love, not enough, I know. I wish I could offer you more than a steamy caress. I want to give something that will ease the chaos, reduce the misery, foment a cure, but all I have is love. An open-handed love, a never-empty rice pot of love, a love garden that even in winter bears fruit and flower. In this place of humanity cordoned off, stripped, caged, forgotten in rich men's dreams of Star Wars and capitalistic, metaphysical, pornographic fantasies where everything and all is owned and everyone and everything has a price, even God. I have nothing to offer but love and outrage. I hide my despair, fight daily against a brine of hate that will curdle my spirit and clog my will, push it back and offer love. One cannot fight a revolution with such a paltry weapon. Even a wordsmith must have more. I would become the red of the lava spewed from the volcano's stomach, spurt and flow, and in my wake coax a few flowers to grow. Here I stand with nothing but my hands and my eyes and my heart, all tendering not the honey that runs between my legs, but at a moment's calling, but my love. And if it's not the rope you need to climb that mountain, not small feathers under your wings that lift you up, not the bulletproof vest to ward off assassination, forgive me my inadequacy. I have nothing to offer but a love that lasts forever. Take some, please. Perhaps it will moisten your tongue, cool your throat, court a corner of a not yet full belly. Perhaps it will soothe your heart. Forgive my paucity. I have nothing to offer but my love. And I will end with another cosmology meditation, which the book ends with. And that last section is, and now we are becoming whole. That's what the love poem is. And then we became whole. Our universe, the cosmologist said, is creating itself. A quick-bred batter making interstellar spaces between raisin-sweet galaxies. Our universe is not geocentric, Earth at the center, nor heliocentric, sun rays spiking from its middle, nor exocentric, the center settled a particular number of degrees this way or that. Instead, we find it omnicentric, infinitely expanding in all directions, so that wherever you are at the center of the universe. Known and unknown, life creating itself, eternally stretching outwards, becoming. Thank you.